Good morning, world. This is the Sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker, and today is Friday, January 9, 2026. We have transitioned into the new year. And for January, weather-wise, in this area at least, Lexington, Kentucky, the weather has been mild. Yesterday was almost 65 degrees, sunny. Of course, we do have a little wind, anywhere from 10 to 15 miles per hour. But for the most part, unusually pleasant for January, wintertime. Today, currently the temperature is 60 degrees here. And there are showers in the vicinity. That 60 degrees feels like 57. Showers predicted ending by midday, highs in the low 60s and lows in the upper 40s. Running is poor right now. Cycling is also poor, and poor weather for gardening. The AQI is moderate at 56. No pollen related to trees, grass, or ragweed. And currently the wind is breezy at 17 miles per hour. Other places in the United States have been experiencing record snowfalls and cold weather, but Kentucky has continued to remain mild. There is an 89% chance of rain today in this area, but again, rain has been predicted throughout the week so far, and here we are at Friday, and it has mainly changed as the day has progressed. So that's basically where we are with the weather. Globally and in other places, I know there's been reports of earthquakes. Even here in Kentucky, I think there was a 3.1 on a Richter scale earthquake. So just wanted to put that in there. So it's been a little while since we've been on the air. Sideshow with Theodore Parker. I think the last date was December 19th. So I at least wanted to allow people to get through the holidays, such as it is, and into the new year and see where their resolutions and celebrations have brought them to. And here we are today, with what's in the news, what's current, and what's going on. I'm not going to try and cover everything. First part of 2026. I know I haven't said anything about sports in a while and other activities, entertainment, and things of that nature. But I will get to it as we progress into the year. But today, I wanted to cover some high points that have been in the news. And they are as follows. Now that we are officially into the new year of 2026, Trump has shown us how fast he can go about changing things that were working just fine. According to most reports, I guess now he will drive it until the wheels fall off. So, let's start with Venezuela. I like to use a little different slant on things and what's generally major concerns in the media by journalists that are reporting on said news events. So we'll start with this one. Venezuela's primary resources are its immense oil and natural gas reserves, holding the world's largest proven oil deposits. But it also possesses significant untapped minerals like gold, iron ore, bauxite for aluminum, diamonds, nickel, coal, and strategic elements such as coltan, niobium tantalum, making it rich in critical minerals for technology. Now, politics in Venezuela, dating back to July 28, 2025, voting for presidential election shows that Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia, Urrutia, and Maria Corina Machado. First one, gentlemen, I'm not familiar with his name, but Maria Corina Machado won the Nobel Peace Prize, which she offered to President Trump. These two won the election by the voting process with 83% of voting tallies. So we see how it's played out in the media that the deputy for Venezuela under the president at the time is the one that has stepped up to represent the government. So how does that play off? It seems like it'd be more of the same. And when I initially looked up Venezuela, it was listed as a dictatorship, but the opposition party does represent a democracy. So he is under arrest. Him and his wife appeared in court earlier this week after being captured and taken from Venezuela with accusations of major drug conduits and distribution of drugs and gangs and things of this nature by the Trump administration, which allowed them to go in and operate in a militaristic fashion and seize him out of Venezuela. So the people, by vote, have taken Theodore and Machado as their selected government representatives to operate as president and vice president. Will of the people of Venezuela. Greenland. When the Cold War was being fought, Greenland had 6,000 American troops stationed there. Since the Cold War that has ended, that number has been constant at 150 troops holding America's position in Greenland, which is currently under Denmark, a member of NATO. Again, natural resources. Greenland is rich in untapped natural resources, primarily rare earth elements, referred to as REEs, lithium, iron ore, zinc, gold, copper, uranium, oil, gas, and graphite, crucial for green tech and electronics. But extracting them is cost prohibitive due to the ice sheet and remote Arctic conditions. Its economy currently relies on fishing. Strategically, Greenland lies in a position that if Russia were to launch any nuclear weapons, it would pass over Greenland first. There's been some mention of Japan in the news. Japan is consistently the largest foreign holder of U.S. Treasury bonds, with holdings totaling over $1 trillion, though the exact amount fluctuates with recent data from late 2024, early 2025, showing figures around 1.1 to 1.19 trillion, making them a significant creditor to the U.S. government. And this has come up because there has been comments about tariffs related to Japan. So currently in 2025, President Trump implemented a new trade agreement that increased tariffs on most Japanese imports compared to 2024 levels, setting a new baseline rate of 15%. If you recall, across the board, tariffs were pretty much set at about 10% for all countries involved in imports and exports related to the United States. This rate was a reduction from the 25% that had been threatened earlier in the year, but was still a significant increase from previous rates. In 2025, numerous countries were targeted with broad duties, including major partners like China, Canada, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, India, and the European Union, along with developing nations with rates from 15 to 40% on tariffs. Other Asian countries that benefit the U.S. through major trade are China, South Korea, India, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Taiwan. So, talking about rubbing people the wrong way, Donald Trump is almost across the board irritated all those people that were favorably positioned to do things for the United States in a helpful manner. Russia-Ukraine war and peace talks. President Zelensky views talks as progressing but remains wary, prioritizing peace but preparing for continued conflict. Russia's stance: Moscow continues to demand complete Ukrainian capitulation and rejects concessions on occupied territories. Russia occupies about 20% of Ukraine, including the Donbas and Crimea, which Ukraine refuses to cede. If you remember, before all this broke out, Ukraine was supplying 80% of the world's grain, So you know how much children like cold cereal. So that probably was a plus. Plus, along with that, they also were an medical education hub for the world as well. This area where most of that education was set up to operate and facilitate international students and other ways, I believe is going to be referred to as the free zone, what is proposed to be as the free zone. So I just wanted to remind you of those things before Russia got involved, deciding that they needed the territory that was the country of Ukraine. At that time, when Russia launched the war, sanctions were imposed on Russia. Sanctions against Russia has resulted in $195 billion being frozen, primarily at the Belgian clearinghouse Euroclear, with other large amounts held by EU states, the US, Japan, UK, and Canada. Those luxury items that were seized from Russia's oligarchs, mainly because of the expense and maintenance involved, have mainly been held in places that are suitable to maintain and supervise them. They have not been taken from those people. They still have ownership, but they do not have the use of those items. The money holdings are as follows. Belgium, Euroclear, holds the largest share at $180 billion, which has cash earning interest. I think that's going to $3 billion just on the interest alone. The European Union has about $210 billion of Russia's money. Japan holds about $33 billion. The US holds about $5 billion. The United Kingdom, Switzerland, Canada also hold significant portions. So how does all that translate to us as regular people who work for a living in terms that we can understand? All right, well, I will provide you with a comparison. California's economy is significantly larger and more productive than Russia's, with California's GDP, gross domestic product, often exceeding Russia by a factor of 2 or more, placing California as one of the world's largest individual economies comparable to major nations, while Russia's economy is smaller, often ranking around 11th globally and comparable to large U.S. states like Texas or New York. California boasts higher GDP per capita, including greater average wealth, despite having a much smaller population than Russia. So those are some of the high points that have been in the news that I thought I would add a few more details to that might kind of settle things down a little bit as to what is actually going on. Here at home, Donald Trump and his administration continue to make changes. Economists were quick to mention that increases in tariffs would eventually fall to the American people as consumers of these products. Increases in prices on goods is being reflected in everything from grocery items to bourbon. Beef products have been recalled in 6 states. Most of the changes we are seeing have been facilitated by Trump appointees, including the name change to the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. The plan laid out in Proposal 2025 has already been implemented. What hasn't been mentioned often enough is that the goal is for Donald Trump to see a 3rd term in office as president, which would be unprecedented and unconstitutional. Since being found guilty on 34 felony charges, his wealth has grown from the hundreds of millions to last reported at $7.5 billion. As members of Congress continue to navigate the changing political landscape, the presidential elections are coming in November 2026. The Epstein Files. I saw a video of the 2 islands that Jeffrey Epstein owned. The 2 islands were Great St. Pierre and Little St. Pierre. And they're like most places that enjoy a tropical climate. I think it showed the house, the patio, bedroom, the massage room, where so many incidents took place. Since we are talking about a timeline that's anywhere with the Epstein's files from 10 to 20 years ago, situations have changed. But at that time, it was more like this. Jeffrey had Little St. Pierre as his place for activities related to underage girls that Ghislaine Maxwell mainly found in Florida, which by air would be about an hour from Little St. Pierre. And if you add Mar-a-Lago to the equation, since it was listed as a golf resort, it might tie up any loose ends. One particular incident comes to mind, or occasion, when all 3 were present, Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, Ghislaine Maxwell at Mar-a-Lago, and Donald showed an interest in one of the women that was present, but he asked Jeffrey about the woman. And Jeffrey says, no, she doesn't work for me. So another woman that was present came up and told Donald, she works for you. So that conversation was reported in the media. So that's just about how things are presently with world events and current events in this country and in other places. So I thought I would keep the broadcast short today, Friday, January 9th. But I would like to end with this. You know, every year, Webster and other lexiconic volumes choose words or a word that is like a buzzword for that particular year. And there were several words that were chosen, Slav and other AI-generated words and things of that nature. But one that was included that brought a smile to my face and is a tribute to the young children was 6-7. Children of school age really rocked that term. 6-7 is even featured in an episode of Abbott Elementary. And there's an interesting story that surfaced in the media related to 6-7 and Vice President Vance and his son attending church. So as the story goes, they're at church, and the hymn or song that is chosen is number 6-7. So his son immediately began chanting 6-7, 6-7. Teachers were already commenting that they were having their share of it in the classroom, and now it's become a part of the Sunday service. This is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker. That's it. Hashtag